offender in Mombasa County has been presented in court. 33-year-old Swabir Abdul Razak Mohammed, who works as a security guard at a Jab Unga factory in Shimanzi, is seen in the video torturing his victim for allegedly trespassing into the factory's premises. In the widely circulated clip, Mohammed is seen using flaming drops from a burning mosquito net to torture the suspect while also whipping him with a plastic pipe. The victim, who had his hands and neck secured on an electricity pole using a rope, is heard wailing and begging for his life, but to no avail. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations Monday arrested him after a manhunt following a tip from the public. Mohammed told the detectives that he handed over the victim to 2 police officers. And joining us now is Mugambi Kiai, who is Regional Director, Article 19, Eastern Africa. Let's begin with the video. And have you watched it, Mugambi? What is your reaction to it?
Well, I haven't watched it, but I've heard about it. It's of great concern to some of us who have been working for the promotion and protection of rights for quite a while. It's quite reprehensible to hear that private citizens think they have the right to hit or violate others physically. And it should be clear that this is completely unconstitutional and actually against the international human rights framework, both from the perspective of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, as well as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
Right, and just talk to us about that, particularly in the Kenyan legal context. What then happens when this, what does it pronounce itself, particularly with regard to torture, and what kind of legal redress can we expect on this?
So what happens is because this is not a really state-executed or state-implemented torture, this is a private citizen. So it is about the state making sure that all bearing of the law, all power of the law, all force of the law comes down heavily on the perpetrator. The state has a duty to protect, to implement, to respect rights. And therefore, when this kind of incident happens, it is up to the police and the Directorate of Public Prosecution to make sure that the full implications of the law are brought to bear. Now, in this case, from I think your reports, the perpetrator has been taken to court. And for me, it'll be interesting to see what the charge sheet reads, because I think 2 things. One is there must be redemptive justice. There must be a place where the victim or the person who has been violated feels that redress has been brought in a way that restores their dignity. But also, I think there's a need for us to send a strong message, a kind of deterrence message, that private citizens at no time are entitled, not even on your own premises. So if you're in a factory, in fact, in the privacy of your own home, torture is illegal. In fact, under Article 24 of the Constitution, torture is non-derogable, which means that you cannot limit, this provision that prohibits torture. So it's very clear that in terms of just the legal and jurisprudential backing, that this is actually a very serious and grave matter.
And would it be different if it was the state using this kind of punishment and torture, for this alleged kind of trespass? Would it be different if it was the state then using this kind of method?
I think the difference would be the process through which this is executed. So when the state commits torture, you find what happens is the police are supposed to investigate, the DPP is supposed to prosecute. But in that case, the state is directly responsible, because what happens in a private citizen's situation, it is the state that is indirectly being obligated to ensure that these provisions are enforced. So when it's the state itself, so what happens is normally the state is being asked to investigate itself. So, a lot more scrutiny and checks and balances are needed in the second case. But essentially what happens is the prohibition is the prohibition. And therefore, in both cases of whether it's a private citizen or a state officer or an officer, a public officer, the implications should be that torture cannot be accommodated, it cannot be countenanced, it cannot in a way be excused at all.
Right. And maybe finally, Mugambi, does this speak to a need for sensitization, education? Because this is not the first time we have seen private guards taking this kind of, power in their own hands. We have seen several cases of torture, of clobbering of citizens, really, by security guards of private kind of companies. What does this speak to and what needs to be done?
Yes, I think, Sharon, you're onto something, which is that we're in a society, and I include myself in this, that embraces violence as a means of curing what you consider ills against us, or what you consider as wrongs against us. So we're in a society that takes the law into our own hands, and that has several implications, one of which, of course, is that these kinds of happenings and these kinds of occurrences where private citizens then visit violations or others do occur. We do know about mob violence, which sometimes is called mob justice, I think erroneously. We do know, we've seen, for example, borders torch matatus or torch private cars or try and enforce rights. I think the whole question around just the place of violence in this society must be addressed solely, and civic education actually is one of them. But I think a broader public conversation about violence and its place in our society, because I think there's a place where we're saying that we have so totally embraced it that we don't even think that there are other ways or other methods which we can through which we can conduct our affairs and conduct our own conversations. Needs to be had. So beyond civic education, I think we also need to look at our value system. I think that is one of the big issues that we have, that violence has been valued and rewarded in situations such as this. So you find that the person who's perpetrating it, it's actually low cadre.
Right. Thank you, Mugambi Kiai. There, we seem to have a bit of a problem with the audio, but thank you for weighing in on this issue. Mugambi Kiai is Regional Director, Article 19, Eastern Africa. Thank you for your time. Now, a court in Nyeri has this morning released 2 suspects